Madoff, and I'm a member of the Beth Israel Lifelong Learning Committee. It's a pleasure to welcome everyone to our Beth Israel program entitled A Different Kind of Dialogue. Our program features two excellent speakers who are members and former co-directors of the Parents Circle Families Forum in Israel. PCFF is a joint Israeli-Palestinian organization made up of more than 600 bereaved families. Their common bond is that they have lost a close family member to the conflict. But instead of choosing revenge, they have chosen a path of reconciliation. Our speakers are Bassam Aramin, a Palestinian who founded Combatants for Peace, and Rami Elhanan, a seventh-generation Jerusalemite graphic designer. Tragically, both men lost their young daughters to the conflict. They are both protagonists in Colin McCann's award-winning novel at Paragon, and they appeared in the very recent movie, The Narrow Bridge. In the words of a close Israeli friend, quote, anyone who can take a personal tragedy and turn it into something positive is an incredible human being. We must try to break the cycle of violence and hate. This program is sponsored by a generous grant from the Sabina and Walter Dorn Fund. Lastly, a few housekeeping items. Please make sure to keep your screens on mute. The transcriptions or transcripts are on, but they may not be 100% accurate, so you can turn them on if you need them. Each speaker will talk for about 30 minutes, Rami first and then Bassam second. Following both presentations, we will accept questions from the audience. If you do have a question, please enter your question in the chat, and thank you very much for coming. Rami, go for
it. Hi, everyone, and it's a great honor and a lot of excitement for us to be here with you. As I understand, most of you read the book. Am I right? I'm asking to understand whether we are giving a usual show, I mean, telling the full story, or if most of the people or all of them read the Paragon, we can leave more time for questions. What is your preference?
I unmute me. I can't. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So I read the book, but I don't believe everybody read the book. So yeah, I think you'll need to catch them up.
Okay. Okay, so let us begin. Thank you. We will try to do the short version, so we still will have time for questions. Just know that Bassam and I are willing to stay here until tomorrow morning, so we have all the time in the world. This Palestinian terrorist with me, my brother Bassam Aramin, is the closest person to me on earth, much closer to me than many of my own people, many of my own family. What makes us so close is the price that we both have paid as an outcome of this ongoing conflict between our two nations. We don't need words to understand each other. We share the same kind of pain. For me, Bassam is a leader. I look up to him, I admire him, and I take a lot of strength out of him and my other brothers and sisters, Israelis and Palestinians, members of this unique organization of ours, which is probably the only organization on earth that does not seek new members. My name is Rami Elhanan. I'm 73 years old, graphic designer living in Jerusalem. I was born in Jerusalem, 7th generation. My mother was born in the old city of Jerusalem, an ultra-Orthodox Jewish family. My father came to this country in 1946 after spending 1 year in Auschwitz. He was very badly wounded in the 48 war. She was the nurse that took care of him, and this is the reason why I'm able to speak to you right now. I am a Jew, I'm an Israeli, and before anything else, I am a human being. My story starts 49 years ago, at the eve of Yom Kippur War. You know, this Yom Kippur, the holiest day of the year for us. This is the day where we ask forgiveness for our sins. On this very day, 49 years ago, I was a very young soldier fighting this horrible October 73 war, starting it with a company of 11 techs, finish it with only 3. I came out of it a very angry and bitter and disappointed young man with one determination: to detach myself from any kind of commitment or involvement. I got out of the army. I went to Bezalel Art School to become a graphic designer. I got married. I had 4 kids. And 39 years ago, on the very eve of Yom Kippur, September 1983, my daughter was born in Hadassah Hospital in Jerusalem. Her name was Smadar. The name Smadar is taken from the Bible, the Song of Solomon. It means the grape of vine, which means the opening of the flower. And she really was a very sparkling and vivid and energetic and amazing little girl. She was very beautiful. She was an excellent student. She was a swimmer. She was a dancer. She played the piano. She was unbelievable. Everybody used to call her the princess. And we lived a very good life in our house in Jerusalem. My wife, which is a professor for education in the Hebrew University, my 3 boys. And this princess in what seemed to be the perfect sheltered, protected lives. In so many ways, you could say that we put ourselves inside a big bubble, completely detached from the outside world, minding our own business. I was doing graphic design for the right wing, for the left wing, whoever paid me. And life was very, very comfortable and beautiful. And this went on until about 25 years ago, just a few days before Yom Kippur. This bubble of ours was blown up to millions of pieces. 2 Palestinian suicide bombers blew themselves up in Ben Yehuda Street in the center of Jerusalem. They killed 5 people that day, including 3 little girls. One of these girls was my 14 years old Smadar. It was Thursday afternoon and the beginning of a very long and a very cold night, which continues until today. At first, when you hear about the explosion, you keep hoping that maybe this time this finger will not turn towards you. Gradually, you find yourself running in the streets, trying to find her. She completely disappeared. Then you go from hospital to hospital, from police station to police station, many long, frustrating hours until eventually very later that night, you find yourself in Abu Kabir, in the morgue. And this finger is stuck right between your eyes, and you see this sight which you will never ever be able to forget for the rest of your life. And you come back home, the house is filled immediately with thousands of people coming to pay respect and offer condolences. These are the 7 days of the Jewish mourning period, the Shiva. You are kind of enveloped by these thousands of people in a very clever traditional way that is designed to ease your passage to the new kind of life which expects you. On the 8th day, they go home. You are left alone. You need to wake up. You need to stand up and face yourself. And you have to make a decision. What are you going to do now with this new unbearable burden on your shoulders? What are you going to do with this anger that eats you alive from within? There are only 2 ways to choose from. And the first one is obvious. When someone kills your 14 years old little girl, you are so angry. And you want to get even. This is natural. This is human. This is the way most people choose, the way of revenge and retaliation, this way that creates this endless cycle of violence, which never stops. But then after a while, you start to think, we are human beings. We are not animals. We can use our heads. You ask yourself, will killing anyone will bring her back? Will causing pain to someone will ease this unbearable pain? And the answer is certainly not. So in a very gradual and complicated process, you come to the other option, which is much more difficult, trying to understand what happened here. Why did it happen? How could such a horrible thing take place? What can cause someone to be that angry, that mad, that desperate and hopeless, that he's willing to blow himself up with 14 years old little girl? Do you have some kind of connection or responsibility yourself? And then the most important question of them all, what can you do personally in order to prevent this unbearable pain from other people, from other families? It's not easy, it takes time, it took me almost a year. Foolishly, in the beginning, I thought that I could go on with my life, pretending as if nothing ever happened, go back to my studio, try to lead a normal life. But nothing was normal anymore. I was not the same person anymore. And about a year later, I met someone who changed my life completely. His name was Itzhak Frankenthal. He was a religious Jewish guy, you know, the big kippah on his head. And you know how we tend to put people into drawers and stigmatize people. And we judge people by the way they dress and what they put on their heads, around their necks. And I was certain that this guy, Mr. Frankenthal, was a fascist and a right-winger, that he eats Arabs for breakfast. I prepared myself to fight him. We started talking. He told me about his son, Arik, a soldier who was kidnapped and murdered by Hamas in 1994. And about this organization that he created of people who lost their loved ones, Israelis and Palestinians, who chose the way of reconciliation instead of revenge. And he invited me over to watch a meeting of this group of crazy people. And I got a little bit curious. I said, okay. And I went to see. It was 24 years ago. I was standing aside, very detached and reluctant and very cynical, as I always am. And I was watching those people coming down from the bus. And from the buses came down people that for me as an Israeli patriot were always living legends. I used to read about them in the newspapers. I used to look up to them and admire them. And I never ever thought that one day I will become one of them, people who lost their loved ones in this conflict and still wanted peace. And then I saw something else which was completely new to me, to my eyes, to my mind, to my soul. I was standing there watching the Palestinian bereaved families, walking towards me, shaking my hand for peace, hugging me, crying with me. And I was so deeply touched and so deeply moved. You see, I was 47 years old at the time. Until today, I'm ashamed to admit it was the first time ever in my life I have met Palestinians as human beings, not as transparent people, not as terrorists, not as workers in the streets, as human beings who carry the same burden that I carry, who suffer exactly like I suffer. And I was so moved by this sight. I remember seeing this old Arab lady coming down from the bus with this long black traditional Palestinian dress, and she had a picture of a 6-year-old kid on her chest, exactly like my wife carrying the name of our daughter Smadari on hers. I'm not a religious person, I'm afraid. I have no way of explaining what happened to me back then, 24 years ago. All I can tell you is that from that moment on until today, I devote my life to go everywhere possible and talk to anyone possible. People who want to listen and people who will not listen, to convey this very basic and very simple message, which says we are not doomed. This is not our destiny to keep on killing each other forever. It's not written anywhere. We can change it. And we can break once and for all this endless cycle of violence and revenge and retaliation. And the only way to do it is simply by talking to each other, because it will not stop unless we talk. So this is what we do at the Parent Circle. My brother here beside me, Bassam, and the 600 families members of this organization. Our common denominator, what holds us together, is the understanding that the occupation took away our children, that we paid the price of one people controlling another. And it's our task, it's our moral obligation to fight back non-violently in a situation that takes away children from people. We bang our heads against these very high walls of hatred and fear that divide our two nations today. And we put cracks in it, crack after crack. And through these little cracks, a little light comes in. A little light can drive away a lot of darkness until we will put those walls down, because the alternative is really horrible. And we have an enormous ally on our side, which is the power of our pain. You should know that the power of pain is tremendous. It's very much similar to the nuclear energy. And like this horrible energy, you can use it in order to bring darkness and destruction and pain and death to people. And you can use it in order to bring light and warmth and hope. So we go around the country, we go from high school to high school. We talk to Israeli kids, we talk to Palestinian kids, we talk to anyone. And we tell them that our blood is exactly the same color, that our pain is exactly the same pain, and our tears are just as bitter. And if we who have paid the highest price possible, if we who have every reason on earth to want to kill each other, if we can call each other brother, anyone can, anyone should. Thank you very much for listening.
סאי
יאללה.
בסך רגע.
תודה רמי, תודה אחי.
Habibi.
Shalom וערב טוב to everyone. I don't know from where to start, but I want to say that, believe me, I am sure, if all of you have born as Palestinians, everyone will have a criminal record only because you are Palestinians, according to the Israeli system, Israeli regime. So it's very difficult to be a Palestinian. It's very difficult to detach yourself from the reality. You cannot say, I don't care even about the Palestinians or the Israelis. I want to live my own life. It's not up to you. You must be involved in this conflict. At the age of 13, with other 4 kids, we start as a local military group, we call ourselves, but we start by raising the Palestinian flag, which was a crime in that time. This is the only way that we can do as kids, because we note that this flag is making the Israeli soldiers crazy. This is our goal, is to make them nervous and crazy. It's not to create a Palestinian state or national dignity. We don't understand that. We just want to feel safe as kids, because we have no safe place for ourselves. We hate those soldiers very much, and we don't need to go to school to hate them, just to see them from their behavior. Strangers, we don't know them, they don't look like us, they don't speak our language, and they come to control our life. At the age of 16, we find some old weapons in a cave with 2 grenades and other military materials that we don't know how to use it or what's it exactly. In spite of that, 2 of my friends throw the 2 grenades on the Israeli soldiers, patrols in our village near Hebron. And of course, in that time, no one killed, no one injured, because they don't know how to use it in a professional way. And 1 year later, at the age of 17, all of us have been arrested. So the first one get 21 years in jail, 19, 15, 14, and I had 7 years. During my time in jail, which is a very long period, but in the beginning, I watched a movie about the Holocaust. And the Holocaust, for most of the Palestinians, I believe, and the Arabs until today, it's a big lie. Oh, no one knows about it. And what I know in that time, that someone called Hitler, I don't know from where this Hitler, killed 6 million Jewish people, but it's a big lie. It never happened. So in fact, I want to watch this movie as kind of revenge, to enjoy seeing this Hitler torturing the Jews or kill them or whatever, because I am in their jails and they occupied my people. What happened after a few minutes, suddenly I found myself crying in sympathy with those innocent people. It was too much for me. I don't believe that they are human beings, can do the same to other human beings. I say to myself, it's just a movie and nothing like this in the reality. It's against the human nature. Briefly, I decide that I want to know more about this big lie. If it's really happened or it's just a movie, propaganda. This movie stayed with me for many long years until 2010, 2011, before 10 years, 11 years. I make my master degree about the Holocaust in Bradford University in the UK. Then after that, I start to visit death camps in Germany. Then I learned that if you know more, you act much better. If you don't know, simply you don't know. And to be honest, in many cases, it's much better not to know anything because always you will be satisfied with yourself. You will agree with yourself, with your narrative, with your history, with your story. And always you are the good guy and the others are the bad guys. I go back to jail. You can imagine it's a very long 7 years. They treat us as killers, terrorists with blood on their hands, dangerous people. It doesn't matter how old are you or what you really did. And for us, we teach ourselves that we need to survive. We need to protect our humanity in order to continue our struggle, our fighting against this occupation. We are freedom fighters, and they are not our examples. In fact, they never broke us, and they will never broke us. You just become more determined, in fact, to continue your armed struggle against the occupation. So I get released after 7 years in 1992, and I still believe in armed struggle as the only way to talk to those people. 93, 1 year later, one day, suddenly we have peace. I'm talking about Oslo Agreement for the first time between PLO and Israel. And I start to see the same bad guys, the killers, the terrorists, the Palestinians, they become the Palestinian Authority. They became generals in the Palestinian security forces. And they start to meet the Israeli generals who arrest them 15 or 20 years before. And it was unbelievable. So I say to myself, so why I spent 7 years? Why they didn't make this agreement 10 years before, 20 years before? At least I am not going to be in jail, and they will save thousands of lives of Israelis and Palestinians. After I discovered that more than 100 years we are trying to kill each other, to defeat each other, to eliminate each other, the result until today, Israel is not safe and Palestine is not free, and more blood, more pain, more victims. We already used the violence or armed struggle for 100 years. So I believe that we need to change our way to achieve the same goal. In fact, I start to be active in my society in the Palestinian side without any connection with the other side. Of course, I get married and I start to have kids. And I have 6 kids. Until 2002 and 3, I start to hear in the Israeli media about something called refuseniks, which is ex-Israeli soldiers and officers who refuse to serve in Palestine or in the occupied territories because they love Israel, because they don't want to be part of this illegal and immoral occupation, because against the Jewish values. And I wish to meet those people to understand why they really refuse to continue occupying us. 2 years later, in 2005, by chance, we have the first meeting between 4 Palestinians, ex-prisoners. I was one of them, with 7 ex-Israeli officers. Ram's son was one of them. This is how I get to know this noble enemy, Rami al-Hanan, in 2005. And you can imagine the first meeting between the real enemies. We know each other, we hate each other, and we did even our best to kill and to fight each other physically from both sides. So it was the most difficult meeting in my life. And I believe for each one of them, briefly, we continue to meet for 1 year until we became 300 members. When we discovered that we are the same, we want to kill each other to achieve the same thing. We want peace and security. Of course, each one from his point of view. So we create, as you mentioned, David, combatants for peace. And our slogan was what Nelson Mandela says. He says, if you want to make peace with your enemy, you need to work with your enemy. Then your enemy become your partner. And this was our goal, to prove that there is a partner in the other side for peace. In fact, 2 years later, in the 16th of January 2007, an Israeli border police shot and killed my 10 years old daughter, Abir, to an Israeli border police from a distance of 15 to 20 meters, her head from the back. Abir fell down, and 2 days later, she passed away in Hadassah Hospital. And 2 hours later, I received my brother Rami and his wife and more than 30 Israeli families who stay with me 3 days, praying for little Abir until she passed away. As Rami mentioned, in fact, you discover that there is no revenge. It means even to kill the rest of the Jewish on earth, not only the Israelis and the Muslims, you will never meet Abir again. It's over. And the problem, it's nothing to do with your pain. It's 24 hours, forever, whatever happened. You need to know how to live with this pain, how to manage this pain. Unfortunately, it's not a crime to kill a Palestinian in the Israeli system. This is what the Palestinians claim, and their evidence that they never ever saw an Israeli soldier be punished because he killed a Palestinian. Never ever, except one soldier 4 years ago, because he had been filmed, and there is a Jewish Israeli witnesses in Hebron, so they sent him to jail for a long time, for 9 months. From the beginning, I said, I wish Abir will be the last victim between the Israelis and the Palestinians. I'm not going to give up. I will follow those killers in the court, even after 100 years. But unfortunately, the Israelis will close the file, and they will say lack of evidence. And this is exactly what happened. After 4.5 years, the Israeli Supreme Court decision was the mother have the right to know the killer of her daughter. But because it's 4.5 years and because lack of evidence, we close the file. In fact, I met the victim who killed my daughter after 3.5 years in the Israeli court in Jerusalem. And I said to him, I need you to know that you are not a hero and you are not a warrior. You didn't kill the enemy or the terrorist. You just killed 10 years innocent girl. And if you are proud of what you did, you can enjoy your crime. I don't ask for revenge because I don't take revenge from victims. For me, you are not less victim than your victim. But in any day in your life, if you come to ask me to forgive you, always you will find me there. I will forgive you. But it's not because of yourself at all. It's because of myself. Because I really love my daughter very much. And because I have another 5 kids. I don't want them to grow up as victims to you. 2 days after I lost Abir, I joined the parent circle because I know Rami 2 years before when we met. But in my worst dream, I don't want to join this amazing group because the ticket to the price is very high. I believe that we need to share this land. You call it the Promised Land or Eretz Israel. We call it Palestine or Palestine or the Islamic land, the same land, as 1 state or 2 states or 5 states. Otherwise, believe me, we will share the same land as 2 big graves to our kids, our families, and our people. Because I don't believe the Israelis will never give up their safe place after 3,000 years of slavery and discrimination and anti-Semitism and the Holocaust. And I don't believe the Palestinians, after 3,000 years from tonight, they will never ever accept the Israeli occupation or the Israeli control. So it's up to us to live side by side or together, or unfortunately, we will continue to sacrifice the blood of our kids to protect the holy stones of Jerusalem. Jerusalem is a holy place for the Christians, for the Jews. It's more than holy for us, for the Muslims. And we call it the capital of the sky, the key of the sky, the widest city on earth, because we believe in our faith that the paradise will be in Jerusalem. With faith, you cannot argue. But I want to say that we love Jerusalem, we kill each other for Jerusalem, and we meet each other under the ground of Jerusalem. And I am not sure if Jerusalem know who we are, if we are exist at all. It's up to us to decide who's more important, our lives or the holy stones of Jerusalem. In the parent circle, as my brother mentioned, we are more than 620 families, Israelis and Palestinians, who lost their beloved ones. We come together to say we can be partners. And we have the moral authority to raise up our voice and to say no more blood, no more wars. Thank you very much for listening.
I'd like to thank Bassam and Rami from the bottom of my heart. Insightful and heartfelt discussions. We now open this program to your questions.
I just want to add one sentence that we have a secret agreement between us, that all the difficult questions will go to him and the rest to me. You can ask any questions that come to your head, political, personal. We know all the answers by heart. Have no mercy.
Rami, can you hold up the photo one more time? I'm not sure everybody's got a chance to see it.
You see, when Smadar murdered Abir Bor, so between Abir and Smadar, it's 10 years. But it's the same reason, our common enemy, the thing that prevent us to live in a normal life, which is the occupation.
Also, I will give people the ability to unmute themselves if you want to ask your question out loud, or you can chat it to Valerie or to David, and they can share as well. Let me do that.
I'd like to start with a question. What are your responses to the new election in Israel and the far right-wing government? I'm sure you get that question a lot in these days.
It depends who you ask. If you ask me, nothing new for us, for the Palestinians, since 75 years even, not 50 years. It's the same government, the same policy. Believe me, they will continue to build more settlements. They will continue to bring more settlers. They will continue to house demolitions. They will continue to arrest us. They will continue the same policy until some leader come to put an end. I believe it will be, of course, more difficult for the Palestinians, but in general, nothing new. They try everything. But I believe now it starts to be difficult for the Israelis, the Israeli society, the Israeli system, the Israeli so-called democracy and freedom of speech. Now they will start to suffer because even the Israeli Likud party described Ben Gvir as a gang leader. What can I describe him as a Palestinian? And this guy will be in charge of the security, the police. So you can imagine, I believe the left wing in Israel will start to suffer. If they claim that it's democracy, I can give you many leaders have been elected in a very democratic way and they destroyed the world. So I believe the Israelis will suffer exactly like the Palestinians. And I hope that we are not alone, that the world, the Jewish nation will raise up their voice and say, we are not going to be pro-Israel in any price, whatever they did.
I agree with every word my brother said. I think there is really no difference. The only difference, which is the main difference, is for the first time since the right wing came to power in Israel 30 years ago with Menachem Begin, the mask. The mask is off. of the Jewish democratic state of Israel. It's not Jewish and it's not democratic anymore. And between the river and the sea, there are 12 million people, half of them under military law. They don't vote, they don't elect, they have no influence about their destiny, about their lives, about the rules in which they are being put in jail for. So it's a test for us Israelis living in Israel to keep on doing what we are doing without fear. It's a test for the Jews across the sea to put aside this slogan which says, my country, right or wrong. It's not true anymore. If you are a human being and your Judaism is important to you, you cannot stand aside while this catastrophe is taking place. I don't know how long it will take him to go to the Temple Mount. I don't know what will happen when he will go to the Temple Mount. No one can stop him anymore. And what will be the outcome of it? And I see a dark future in front of us. But as Martin Luther King have said, only in the darkest of nights you can see the stars shine. Bassam Aramin is a star like this.
There's a question, what can outsiders do to help?
What can they do or why?
What? What can outsiders do to help?
Bassam?
This is your department here.
I think there is a lot to be done. There is one thing cannot be true anymore. And this is standing aside. You know, always I say at the end of my speech, but this is the right time and the right question. I'm a son of a Holocaust survivor. My father was an Auschwitz graduate. And 75 years ago, while they took my grandparents to the ovens back in Europe, the free and civilized world stood aside, never lifting one finger. And today, while these two crazy nations are massacring each other without any mercy, there is not one day without a dead, or two, or three. While this genocide is taking place in Syria, and people are drowning in the Mediterranean, and the atrocities at the Ukraine and Yemen, and wherever you look, the free and civilized world standing aside, doing nothing. And standing aside while a crime is being committed is also a crime. We don't want people to be pro-Israeli. We don't need people to be pro-Palestinian. This will not help us. We demand people to be pro-peace, to be against injustice, and against this ongoing situation in which one people is dominating the other. This is the essence of the problem. It can be changed. It must be changed. And as a Jew, I will tell you to your face that ruling and oppressing and humiliating and occupying millions and millions of people for so many years without any democratic right is not Jewish, period. There are no two ways about it. And being against it is not anti-Semitism. And if you get into an argument, you can quote me.
Do you work, another question, do you work with other organizations working for peace, like the New Israel Fund?
Yes, of course. We have a coalition of peace organizations in Palestine and Israel. We are working together. We attend the activities because we have the same vision, the same goal. Not only in Palestine and Israel, you have a lot of friends around the world, organizations. You have the American Friends of the Parent Circle and the German Friends, and Combatants for Peace the same. Just to say two words about your previous question, if you support the Ukrainian people and you believe that Ukrainian people have the right to resist, and they have the right to resist, if you support the Iranian young people to live in freedom and to liberate themselves from this dictatorship, the Syrian people. But when it comes to the Palestinians, I don't know what happened to you. Automatically, you have a problem. You cannot see the Palestinians. So I hope that you can see me now.
Thank you for that answer. There's another question. How effective is the group Women Wage Peace in bringing about dialogue or changes?
Bassam, this is for you. You are an expert for women.
Yeah, yes, in fact, I believe, as Einstein says, if you teach one man, a man, you teach one person. But if you teach a woman, you teach the society. You know, they are our schools, they are our mothers, our sisters, our wives. So if they are educated, they will teach us the right way. I believe every group have its own effect, and women, especially women's, they have a very strong voice and loud voice in both societies. In spite, they will never enjoy their full rights, but whatever. So Women Wage Peace, also there are a group of Palestinians and Israelis, internationals. Of course, I believe they have their own effect on both sides. But you know, they are less political, not sharp political. We can understand that. In the Israeli side, of course. And we have another women organization, the Palestinian side, they are working together. And their common denominator is to say, ending the conflict. So they can, all of us can live in peace for our children and our kids and our families. And of course, we have a very close relationship with Women's Wage Peace.
Thank you very much. Another question from Nadine. Why do you think people continue to vote for Netanyahu and his so-called friends, in quotes? This is like Trump in the United States, and the killing is like our gun massacres.
Can you explain to me why 70 million Americans voted for Trump?
I
70
cannot.
million. No one can. In both societies, your societies is not in a conflict as in our society, but your society, ever since the Civil War in the United States, are fighting the rednecks against the college boys. It's not Trump. It's a gap that is unbridgeable. I've been there. I was amazed to see that. Our society is different in the sense that we are being injected with brainwashing system of the Israeli educational system. A graduate of the educational system today does not have a clue of the word green line. They don't know what it is, the green line. When you talk about occupation, they say, how can a people can be occupying his own land? And they are incapable of seeing Bassam from a distance of 1 meter. And the effect of Bassam words for them is like an atomic bomb thrown into the class, because they never have the right to listen to such a voice, which is deliberately being hidden from them. So we are talking about two societies at war. They need to prepare the young generation to be able to sacrifice themselves. And the only way to do it is by hiding the other side and demonizing the other side and dehumanizing the other side. And the outcome is in the ballot. You see 15 seats for a Nazi party, like Jewish strengths, I don't know what they call them, which in my worst dreams, I couldn't even imagine that someone like Ben Gvir or like Smotrich will even sit in the Knesset.
You know, I believe because of one thing, it's fear. The fear. This is the Palestinian enemy in the Israeli side. It's the Israeli fear. And it's ongoing fear. Nothing will secure them. And Netanyahu is a very professional politician. He always say to them, I am your babysitter. When someone is scared, I will protect him. I know how to protect them. And it's not a secret that he used the Holocaust 5 times a day, as I pray 5 times a day. And the Holocaust, it's not before 3,000 years. It's just yesterday. The Holocaust survivor still telling the story. So it's a real fear. This is why people sometimes go to this radical way for someone who will protect them. At the same time, he will continue to control them. As not as a Palestinian, as a human being, and see Netanyahu, I believe the worst thing that Netanyahu did is make the corruption like legitimate.
Thank you for that answer. Another question from the Rabin family. Are any members of the government part of your organization? Do you have a voice of support in any governmental organizations?
No, I'm afraid ever since Ehud Barak came back from Camp David 22 years ago with the slogan, we have no partner, we have no one to talk to. And there is nothing to talk about. It's very convenient not to have someone to talk to because then you don't have to give up anything. And ever since then, this is the key cornerstone of the Israeli politics. And when they look at us, we are doing everything in our power to show that there's so much to talk about and so many people to talk to, so they don't like us very much. The Israeli government in all its aspects, all its right-wing aspects, there is no left in Israel anymore. Ehud Barak killed the Israeli left. So we are facing levels of denial of the Palestinian existence. And we are like this little boy with a finger in the wall saying, stop. Many people have a problem with this.
Well, another corollary to that is not just the Israeli government, but Hamas and the Palestinians and the effect of Hamas on the Palestinian people. So if any comments on that?
You know, I believe you really don't understand the real picture. We are not two sides here. We are only one side, and the other side, they have no power. You know, when you talk about the Palestinian Authority or the Israeli government, the Palestinian president, the Israeli president, the Palestinian president said that on the TV, that he need permit to move from one neighborhood to the other in Ramallah, in his city, from the Americans and the Israelis. So it's not a real government or real, we have no problem with them. We meet them 2-3 times a year, every year. We meet the president, me and Rami, maybe 3 times, Abbas. And we have no problem with them, with their vision, with their policy. The opposite, they said, we support you, we bless you, but they have no power on the ground. Always I said, as long as the occupation continue, it's a good reason for Hamas to continue. If we have a peace agreement, Hamas will become a Palestinian problem. So we need to deal with Hamas. Like an Israeli party who don't agree, it's an Israeli problem because we have an agreement. And they know, in fact, now, for example, if they have agreement with the Israelis, no one can launch any rockets from Gaza. If no, so it's a political issue. And Hamas, the leaders of Hamas, announced many times that they will agree of establishment of Palestinian state in 1967 borders. But Israel don't want to hear them. because they are not interested now in open a dialogue with Hamas. Remember, just 22 years ago, PLO was a terrorist organization. Their goal is to destroy Israel, to throw the Jews to the sea. And in one day, when Oslo agreement had been signed, they become freedom fighters or partners for peace. What happened? It's the same people, the same enemy. It's a political decision. So if Hamas come to the table now, they will create another Hamas, or they will find another title, because they are not ready to pay the price of peace and stability right now.
Thank you. Thank you for that answer.
I would like to add a sentence about Hamas. I have no reason to like Hamas. Hamas are the killers of my daughter. But I will speak to the devil itself in order to save one drop of blood. And people tend to forget or prefer not to know that Hamas was a creation of the Israeli security forces in 1987 as a weight against the PLO. And Hamas served a vital task in the Israeli politics because Hamas shows that there is no one to talk to. The prisoners' leadership of Hamas in jail has agreed to what is known in Arabic as Hudna, as kind of a ceasefire between the fighting, provided they will get some rights. But Israel prefers to leave Hamas on a small fire, to use it in times where it is needed, when negotiation get too close and people, you know, in a negotiation you have to give something, and Israel don't want to give anything.
Thank you. Another question is, what do you think of the BDS movement?
You know, as Palestinians, we believe that it's one of the most non-violent moral tools to let the Israeli people, the Israeli society, understand or wake up to say there is something wrong. It doesn't work anymore that the people, all the word anti-Semitic, or the word is Nazis or fascist, or the word hates us. There is something wrong here. This is for me a tool for the Israelis to open their eyes and to say there is something wrong with us, to open their minds and eyes about the Palestinian suffering, because they have no idea what the Palestinians go through every day, like 200 meters far away from them. And it's like a non-violent tool, it's a moral tool, but unfortunately, as you know, how they describe it as anti-Judaism even, or anti-Semitic, or those charges as ready always in order to shut up any movement. It try to support justice and peace. You know, I want peace and justice for me exactly, and for Rami too, because both of us need to release ourselves, our societies, our people from the same occupation, the same rules, the same dictatorship. As long as this continue, as I said, we will never live in a normal situation. So I believe every normal human being, for me to support the BDS as anti-occupation, not anti-Israel. We are not anti-Israel as a state. We are anti-occupation as a regime.
Rami, do you have any thoughts?
You know, waving the flag of the BDS is a tool to shut us up, because the minute you vocal this 3 syllables, automatically you are anti-Semitic. I think BDS is too small and too powerless to make an influence, but I support them with all my heart. I think Israelis need to know the situation today for the last 55 years is that no Israeli paying any price for the continuation of the occupation. They sit in their very comfortable houses. They watch their reality shows on TV. They don't know what is being done in their name, 200 meters, as Bassam said, down their noses. They don't want to know. And the Israeli media is cooperating with this. And no Israeli wants to know the real situation. So as long as this situation will continue, we have lost the power to influence our own destiny. And we really need the free and civilized world to stop standing aside. When we are free and independent Palestinian state, why don't they do it? We don't need BDS to recognize the Palestinian right to freedom. So I think it's the moral obligation of every human being who holds basic elements of civil rights to act against the occupation. This is very, very simple and true.
Thank you for your answer. Do you feel that the schools on both sides are teaching hate rather than working together for peace? I think you might have answered that question, but.
In the Palestinian side, we don't need to teach hate. We have hate more than the level required from the, unfortunately, from the real teach love, which is the normal, the nature of the human beings in this situation. What you are going to do when someone at 3 a.m. invade your house, put all the members of the family in one room, destroy the rest of the house. It was a mistake. Move to the other house. We have no right even to think. You need to understand that. We are under direct military regime or occupation or whatever you call it. So we hate it. It's the normal thing. It's not escalation. I just watched a movie for a guy, I saw it yesterday with Rami, just argue with the soldier. He take his gun, he shot him four times in the middle of the street, Nablus, Hawara, in front of the camera. It's unbelievable. We have no values. Our lives have no values. So it's enough just to see this guy. You don't need to teach any hate, like in the Palestinian side. You just smell the tear gas from 2 kilometers. When you face, like, I don't know, sometimes 5, 6 checkpoints inside the West Bank. It's not between Israel and the West Bank. It's just to create hatred and to create will to revenge. They said they put the checkpoint in order to prevent the suicide bombing. We told them that the checkpoint will create more enemies in the Palestinian side. They need to understand that. So unfortunately, we have a very difficult mission. In spite of that, we said to them what our late poet Mahmoud Darwish says. He says, I have no time to hate those who hates me. In spite of this darkness, we will continue to teach love.
What about the Israeli schools? What do you think? Rami?
What do you mean by Israeli force?
Schools. Are they teaching hate? In what way?
I think I answered it. You have to look at my wife's research. She's an expert on school books. She wrote a very famous book by the name of Palestinians in Israeli School Books, which tells the whole story. How do you create a war machine, a nice Jewish kid that has no problem to pull the trigger and kill a 10 years old girl? Now, the system is very simple, and it's true not only for Israelis. It's true for everyone who lives with a sword in his hand. When you're in a war, when you're in a conflict, you need to prepare the young generation to be better soldiers, to sacrifice themselves. You hide the other side completely. I had to wait 47 years until I met the Palestinian story, the Palestinian music, the Palestinian food, the Palestinian narrative, the Palestinian everything. I was 48 years old when I started this journey towards the other side, which was deliberately and viciously hidden from me. And it's understandable. As I said, two societies at war.
Another question: for a negotiated two-state solution, both sides need to have viable states living with secure borders. Bassam, what is your view concerning the right of return, a position that the Palestinian Authority has insisted on, as I understand it? I think Bassam is off grid.
Looks
Well,
like his
maybe
internet might have dropped out.
until he will get back, I will try to answer it. The answer is about the number of states, the preferable number of states. This is a
Two states.
It's the right of return. The specific question was about the right of return that the PA has
I will
insisted upon.
You know, we as Jews, we pray every Passover. We say at the Seder, at the Haggadah, next year we will be in Jerusalem. We are longing for a temple that was ruined 2,000 years ago. Cannot we understand the Palestinian longing to their ancient homeland only 75 years ago? The right of return is a problem which needs to be addressed. You cannot ignore it. Something happened here in 48. 750,000 people were thrown out of it, and the problem grew up instead of being solved. And we need to face it, and we need to deal with it, and we need to deal with it in a human way, not in a political way. As for the number of states, we can have one state, we can have two states, we can have 10,000 states, we can have federation, we can have confederation, we can have so many solutions, because a state is something technical. You pay your taxes, you get security, you get roads, you don't die for it, and you don't kill for it. And we have to redefine the reasons that we are willing to kill or die for. And I think in this journey, what I have discovered for the last 24 years, that we have to do a restart, like in a computer, and redefine what do we want, what can we achieve, and what is necessary to be done in order to stop sacrificing kids in this holy land of ours. And I frankly, the answer leads only in one word. And the word is very simple. It says respect. The word is respect. And you have to be able to respect the guy next to you exactly as you want to be respected. No more and no less. Once you achieve this, you can get agreements on everything. You can decide that the Temple Mount will be 2 days for the Muslims, 2 days for the Jews, and 2 days for the Christians. You can make any possible way of agreeing on anything, because these are technical issues. They should be technical issues. Once provided you are able to respect the guy next to you as you want to be respected.
Thank you very much. Another question: is the number of your group growing in size? And the questioner is wondering about your outreach in Israel and how's it going? What's your reception? You alluded to it before.
It's very difficult, especially at the atmosphere today, the public life in Israel and in Palestine. In Palestine, there is the thing which they call tatbi'ah. Tatbi'ah means normalization, which they believe that any dealing with the Israelis is normalizes the abnormal situation of the Palestinians under the occupation, and there is a huge movement in Palestine. They reject any kind of activity together with Israelis. In that sense, our Palestinian friends are real heroes, and they do an amazing work. Yesterday in Tel Aviv, there was a screening of the film of the Narrow Bridge. There were about 50 Palestinians coming to watch it in Tel Aviv. And they are ambassadors in the Palestinian society for this kind of a message. In Israel, it's much more difficult. It's the atmosphere is burning. The ability to open your mouth and express your views is getting more and more limited. I think it's much more complicated and much more difficult to express views like I did in the Israeli society. The media will automatically ban it, and these voices are being marginalized for centuries now. This is the situation, and we have no privilege to be tired. We have no privilege to stand aside, because this activity gives us a reason to get out of bed in the morning.
I'm looking up Bassam's number to see if I can get in touch with him.
Let me do it.
David, I tried to text him. It says he's not on WhatsApp.
No, I will do it.
I am with you. You didn't see me?
No, we can't see you. Look if your camera is open.
It's
What's
open.
that?
I can see all of you.
Now we can see you.
I
Yeah.
just keep silent because I want to see Rami say anything bad about the Arabs. But he didn't say.
Do you have anything to add to any of the questions?
In fact, a little bit I didn't hear you, but whatever Rami says, I agree with him word by word. Our goal is to, we are care about the Israelis and the Palestinians, about our fathers, our mothers, our kids, our people. Both of us have the right to exist in peace and security and stability. This is our message. We will continue to work to achieve this peace and security to our people, so we can live in peace and our kids can live in peace and our grandsons and daughters can enjoy this holy land. Only we need security and peace. Only we have everything in this land. We need to understand that we are the same. No one is God, no one is judged, no one is chosen, only Rami for me chosen. So act according to your morals, to the human rights. As I said, human rights for everyone, for the Ashkenazi, for the Sephardi, for the Ethiopian, for the Russian, and for the Palestinians too. So bless you and thank you for inviting us. I wish you health and happiness, and don't forget us, keep us in your prayers. It's very important.
There are a few more questions, but do you have some additional time or a few more minutes?
Yes.
Oh, okay. One question is a quick one, I guess, is do you believe that the United Arab Emirates can help in any way because of their interaction with Israel? There's a smile on Rami's face. What's that about?
Yes, of course they can help. They can send us camel milk, which is very useful, very healthy.
Maybe not so much.
I believe it should be. But I think it's the how the Palestinians look at it. It's in the expense of the Palestinians. The United Arab Emirates, it's an Arab state. They need to make pressure on Israel to end the occupation, to make it more easier. And they are not suffering from the Israeli occupation. They said, we get tired. 40 years of fighting. They never fight. They are even not on the borders. I wish Israel will have a normal relationship with all the Arab world, including Iran, which is, I don't know this, we never saw Iran and Israel fighting, but they are very enemy. This is what written in the Saudi initiative, the Arab Peace Initiative. For 54 Arab states and Muslims, all of them, ready to normalize their relationship with Israel when Israel agreed to create a Palestinian state on 67 borders. It means including Iran. This is the main problem between the Arabs, Muslims, and Israel, nothing else. So I don't think it helps us as Palestinians in any level.
Okay.
I don't
Thank you
know
for
if it's helped the Israelis, it's something different.
Another question, even with your shared pain, there must be, because you're human, times that you find yourselves on opposite side of an issue or event. How do you handle those disagreements without losing focus on your group's goals?
You mean Bassam?
Or just in general, you and someone on the other side?
You know, in fact, we respect the others, even if they are very extremist, even if they are very, sometimes, sorry, stupid or ignorant, or idiot. He says something unbelievable. But sometimes I was there. I was thinking the same maybe 20 years before. So why I think I'm a genius now? Maybe he will move to my place after I get to understand. So we respect the others, so we listen to them, then they will be ready to listen to us. And I don't know who said that. If you don't listen to the others, one day you will stop listening to yourself. You will start to repeat yourself automatically. So the best way is to respect even the people who don't agree with you, to take it easy and to listen to them. Then for sure, they will listen to you.
Thank you so much. And just two last questions. Can you explain and describe, articulate what effectively, quote, ending the conflict, end quote, would look like in everyday practical terms?
It's always the occupation and the occupation and the occupation. This is the beginning of the ending of the conflict. Otherwise, as I said, if someone control your life, it's not a life. It's not a normal life. You are not safe, and they are not safe in the same place. I say, like in Israel, it's more safe than the West Bank. But even if you go to Israel, you will continue to look around because in any moment, someone will come to take revenge. It's not believable. It's unbelievable. It's not a normal life. You cannot live normally, even in Israel. So this is the first condition. Without it, it doesn't work. Then we will start to work. Then we will start to talk. Then we will start to prepare for a reconciliation process. And it could happen. It's very easy. Always I said that the Palestinians didn't kill 6 million Israelis. The Israelis didn't kill 6 million Palestinians until now. And there is a German ambassador in Tel Aviv. And there's an Israeli ambassador in Berlin. Imagine after 2 years of the Holocaust, 6 million victims, 6 million, and we have the best relationship between the two states. How it could happen? Because you prove that you are strong people. You want to look forward. If you find the leader who take you towards the future and to release you from the very painful past. Until now, Netanyahu continue. One day he will move, and Israelis and Palestinians will remain.
Thank you very much. One last question, I promise.
I would like
Oh,
just as one sentence more. If you want to see how it will look like, go to Haifa, go to Akko, go to Yafo, go see where there is a life of respect between Jews and Arabs in this country, and you can have a very clear idea on how it will look like and how it can be. If you walk on the streets of Haifa and you listen to the two languages with respect side by side, you see that it's possible. If you look at my grandchildren who goes to the bilingual school, my grandson speaks fluent Arabic. Even Bassam is amazed by his Arabic. This is the future. There will be no future without cooperation between Jews and Arabs in this country. The sooner the better.
amen. Amen. Last question. Both Israelis and Palestinians want to live in the same place and to be in charge of Jerusalem. How do each of you see a path to peace if both sides want to live in and control the same place?
Yes, of course, because it's not written anywhere that we will continue to kill each other forever. Not in the Bible, not in the Torah, not in the Quran. And it's not a religious conflict, it's a political issue. Jerusalem should be free and open to everyone in the world because it's a holy place for everyone. Why we need to control it? Palestinians or the Arabs or the Israelis, the Jews or the Christians should be open.
Any final comments?
It's create cooperation.
Can you repeat that? It didn't come
That's
through.
it.
Bassam,
Cooperation.
say again the last question.
No, I said that Jerusalem born or created to be free as a capital of love and cooperation and brotherhood between religions, all religions. It should be the capital of the world. Why we need to control it? Let us make it open to everyone. Then we will see the result of the integrated human culture.
Thank you so much.
What Bassam always says is that we worship Jerusalem. It's the holiest place on earth for Jews, Arabs, and Christians. We kill each other for Jerusalem, and we bury our children under Jerusalem. And Jerusalem doesn't know if we exist at all. And not one stone of the holy stones of Jerusalem wears one drop of blood of our children.
Absolutely.
Amen. Well, thank you all for attending this program. I'd like to thank Mira Edelstein, Bassam Aramin, Rami Elchanan from PCFF for their gracious and wonderful participation. I'd also like to thank Valerie Thaler, our executive director, and Becca Rosenfeld, our assistant director, for their invaluable help in presenting this program. Lastly, I would like to thank my wife, Sandra Madoff, the chairwoman of our Lifelong Learning Committee, and the entire committee for our ongoing commitment to creating excellent educational experiences within the Beth Israel community. So just a little plug, Beth Israel has many exciting upcoming events on our educational calendar. So please refer to the Beth Israel Guide, the weekly announcements, and our website for details. To mention just a few, starting in December, we have a series of discussions of Jewish short stories with an excellent educator, Gail Lipsitz. In January and February, we will present our initial Rachel V. Glazer Film Festival. We have some excellent films for that. And starting in January, Rabbi Ezring and Cantor Matus will be hosting a weekly Lunch and Learn that will probably be on Thursdays at noon. And lastly, the Cantor and I are planning an interesting musical series for March of 2023. And last but not least, please take a few minutes to complete the survey regarding this program. There's a link in the chat, And thank you very much and have a wonderful week. Thank you all.
Thank you, David, and
Thank you.
Tanya. And thank you to Bassam and Rami.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you all.
Go
Miss you
into our
all.
website, read more about our activities.
See the movie, The Narrow Bridge. It may be playing at the Gordon Center
Hmm.
in the near future.
Hey, Judy.
Bye. Good night, everyone. Good day, everyone.